We're about to start. Thank you for joining us today.
Okay, guys, be mindful of us.
So thank you for joining us for today's media briefing that is going to be led by Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Minister Dean Macpherson. We have three panelists today that will be speaking to us on the subject matter, which is the project preparation bid window that Infrastructure South Africa has just opened, and other matters that the Minister will speak to. Our three panelists are the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Minister Dean Macpherson. On his right, we have Mr. Alvino Wilskut-Prince, who's the Program Manager for Pipeline Management at Infrastructure South Africa. And to the left of the Minister, we have Ms. Mameti Masemula, who is the Acting Head for Infrastructure South Africa. So without wasting any further time, it's already 11 o'clock, I'll give over to the Minister to give his address. Immediately after that, I'll hand over to Ms. Masemula to supplement what the Minister has spoken to, and then we'll take questions from members of the media. Okay, my name is Nomudelo Nyatela. I'm with Infrastructure South Africa. Okay, Minister.
Thank you very much. I don't think I need that. Thank you very much, Lelo, and let me first off welcoming Mametse Masemula, the acting head of ISA, and Mr. Alvino Wilskut-Prince, who is our program manager for infrastructure pipeline development. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can't tell, I have a very big smile on my face this morning because I am really excited about what we're going to announce this morning. And I want to start by extending my heartfelt thanks to the acting head of ISA, Ms. Masemula, and her dedicated team. Okay, so I need to use this. Okay. Their tireless efforts and the work that we have done over the last 3 months has really brought around a new energy and focus with regards to infrastructure in South Africa. And their tireless efforts in bringing today's bid window announcement to reality is incredibly commendable. This initiative is a crucial step towards expanding infrastructure investment in our country and would not have been possible without their hard work and commitment. Today's announcement represents an important moment for South Africa and an evolution in the work of Infrastructure South Africa. No longer are we just talking about the pipeline of infrastructure, but we are now actively building it. As we unveil the first of its kind project preparation bid window, we are taking a decisive step towards achieving the economic growth and job creation that our country so desperately needs. This initiative, launched today, will enable us to move beyond the talking phase on Infrastructure South Africa and now focus on the action phase, on laying the foundations for sustainable infrastructure that will support long-term development. In my capacity as the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, I have seen firsthand the incredible potential that infrastructure investment holds for our country. It's not just about bricks, mortar, or steel. It's about creating a solid foundation for our economy to thrive, for our people to prosper, and for our nation to rise. Infrastructure development touches every aspect of our lives, from the water we drink to the roads we drive on, and it has the power to transform not only our economy, but society as a whole. The project preparation window we are unveiling today is therefore a game changer. For far too long, one of the major barriers to infrastructure development has been the lack of sufficient project preparation support. Without this critical support, many projects have stalled or failed to move beyond the planning stages. But with today's announcement and action, we are removing this obstacle. We are providing the necessary tools to ensure that infrastructure projects are shovel-ready so that they can be implemented efficiently and effectively. The bid window we are announcing today is open to submissions from national and provincial government departments, state-owned entities, municipalities, and private sector players with public sector support. It will allow us to turbocharge infrastructure investment by ensuring that projects are not only well prepared, but also attract the necessary funding to get off the ground. The focus is on large-scale projects, those that are valued at 1 billion rand and above, and that have the potential to crowd in investment from alternative sources, such as multilateral development banks and development finance institutions. We want to use this opportunity to catalyze seed funding to crowd in other project preparation facilities available to develop credible and viable infrastructure projects. This is the work that we have discussed in recent visits to China and to the United Kingdom, where finance institutions expressed great interest in South Africa's infrastructure pipeline. And it will be discussed at our soon-to-be-held Development Partners Forum before the end of the year. Therefore, the launch of this bid window is, in our view, a concretized step to get shovels into the ground and cranes into the sky. The stakes are high, but so are the rewards. And globally, the link between infrastructure investment and economic growth is well established. Research from leading institutions such as the World Bank and McKinsey Global Institute and the IMF has consistently shown that for every 1% increase in infrastructure investment, a country's GDP can grow by between 0.4 and 3%, depending on the quantum of that value. Here in South Africa, studies by our own National Treasury and the Reserve Bank indicate that a 1% increase in gross fixed capital formation, including infrastructure investment, can result in GDP growth of between 0.5% and 0.7%. What this means for South Africa is that infrastructure investment is not just a priority, it is a necessity. We are at a critical juncture in our nation's development, and as part of the Government of National Unity, we have all committed to building an economy that creates jobs, reduces poverty, and fosters inclusive growth. I believe that infrastructure is the engine that will drive this outcome. By strategically developing and managing our infrastructure, we can unlock the economic expansion that we need. Let me also take a moment to acknowledge the vital role played by Infrastructure South Africa and the Infrastructure Fund in this endeavour. ISA's core mandate is to influence infrastructure strategy and planning in alignment with the National Infrastructure Plan 2050. It is through ISA that we will ensure the projects supported by this bid window are of the highest quality, fully prepared, and ready for execution. The Infrastructure Fund, established through a partnership between National Treasury, our department, and the Development Bank of Southern Africa, is another key component of the strategy. By offering blended finance solutions, the Infrastructure Fund uses public resources to attract private sector investment. This innovative model allows us to pool resources, distribute risk, and ensure that our infrastructure projects are not only financially viable, but critically sustainable. The key question that we have to grapple with is how do we coordinate the work that the Infrastructure Fund and ISA does in relation to the 950 billion rand in the medium-term expenditure framework that is set aside for infrastructure development in our country. Given the fiscal constraints that we face, we cannot rely solely on public funding to finance our infrastructure ambitions. That is a reality and something that we need to come to grips with. This is why we are embracing innovative finance models such as blended finance and public-private partnerships. By combining these public sector investments with private capital, we can spread the risk and attract funds needed to drive large-scale infrastructure projects. Blended finance, in particular, allows us to de-risk projects, making them more attractive to the private market. We are also working to streamline the framework for PPPs, reducing bureaucratic delays, and ensuring that these partnerships are structured to meet the needs of both the public and private sector. Ladies and gentlemen, the project preparation bid window which we have launched today builds on the 12 infrastructure initiatives introduced by President Ramaphosa earlier this year at the Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium. These initiatives have already benefited from 179 million rand in project preparation funding allocated by National Treasury. Today's bid window represents the next phase in this journey, expanding the pipeline of shovel-ready projects and ensuring that they move swiftly to implementation. Applications for this bid window that we have announced today are now open and will close on the 6th of December. And I encourage all eligible stakeholders to submit their projects for consideration. These projects, valued at over 1 billion rand in their total value, will receive comprehensive support, including funding and financing structuring, technical assistance, legal support, and regulatory compliance studies. Our priority sectors include energy, water and sanitation, transport, human settlements, social infrastructure, and critically, municipal infrastructure. These are the areas where we can make the most significant impact, not only in terms of growth, but also improving the lives of people in our country. The importance of infrastructure investment extends far beyond growth. It's also one of the most powerful tools we have for job creation. By turning South Africa into a construction site, we can address our country's stubbornly high unemployment head-on. Infrastructure projects create jobs, not just during the construction phase, but throughout the supply chain and beyond, as well as the maintenance of them. The ripple effects of each project touch multiple sectors of the economy, creating opportunities for suppliers, service providers, and local communities. In the short term, these projects provide employment for thousands of workers in the construction industry, and we really do need our construction industry to boom and thrive. However, these benefits extend well beyond just construction. As we move forward, the road is now clearer. We need to accelerate infrastructure investments to achieve, at the minimum, the 1.5% economic growth target that is now within our reach. And I was listening, I think it was the IMF, have said that we are possibly going to get to 1.8%, which is very encouraging. And we must play our part in terms of infrastructure. The reforms that we have already implemented are beginning to show results, but we must remain focused and committed to delivering on our mandate. The project preparation window is not just a policy announcement, it is also a call to action. It's the first step in turning South Africa into a construction site where public assets are used for public work. For public good. By working together with ISA at the center point of infrastructure coordination, we will see more cranes in the sky, we will see more roads built, and more renewable energy projects coming online. These are the visible signs of progress that our country wants to see. As I close, I would like to invite Ms. Mametse Masemola to provide more details on the technical requirements of the bid window and the incredible work that ISA is doing to expand our nation's infrastructure investment. Her leadership and dedication by her incredible team are integral to the success of this initiative. Over to you, Ms. Masemola.
Thank you very much, Minister, and good morning to all of you. As Minister has said, one of the major contributing factors to underinvestment in infrastructure is the lack of sufficient project preparation support for these projects. In fact, one of the studies by the World Bank shows that only 10% of projects actually reach financial close. These are like mega catalytic projects. And so we're trying to address that particular issue or challenge. And the bid window that we have is part of the process of enhancing operational efficiencies within ISA itself, as well as creating a transparent way in which project sponsors can actually apply for project preparation support at Infrastructure South Africa. So at the core of this defined process for project preparation, one, we want to be able to, as mentioned, enhance operational efficiencies within Infrastructure South Africa, meaning that we'll have a dedicated time period when project sponsors, project owners can actually submit their applications for project preparation support. Previously, every week, every month, every day, essentially we could be receiving these applications. And secondly, we want to be able to create certainty and transparency on the application process. So now everyone knows what those parameters that we've defined are, how the process works, what are the type of projects that are going to be onboarded or considered for onboarding for project preparation support. And then lastly, because we have digitized the process, so it's very, again, transparent, and also it will allow us to receive this data, be able to analyze it even further, and use the analysis to inform the way forward insofar as project preparation funding is going to happen going forward. So given the current fiscal constraints or headwinds, we are only going to focus on 3 categories of projects. Firstly is the PPPs and blended finance candidate projects. So that's the first category. The second category of projects will be those that are potentially commercially viable projects. And then the third category will be those social infrastructure programs that have the potential to leverage or crowd in private sector financing. So excluded in this preparation support for projects will be those projects that will be 100% reliant on the fiscus. Those will not be the projects that we'll be looking for to support. And really we are giving effect to the directive that both our minister as well as the Minister of Finance has given us, which is to promote effective participation of the private sector in both the financing and delivery of catalytic infrastructure projects in the country. As the Minister mentioned as well, so project preparation support takes many shapes and forms, but we really have defined the areas where Infrastructure South Africa will come in. That includes on the financial structuring support. So if that is the requirement of the project sponsor, that's the support that we'll provide. In other areas, that could be technical support that's required, for example, technical studies, designs, specifications, and so on. That's also another area where we will come in from an ISA perspective. And legal support, where project sponsors, project owners require project contract structuring, assessment of potential terms and conditions with their potential service providers and so on, funders, etc. We are able to also provide that particular support, as well as the institutional and governance arrangements. We can also provide that support to the project owner or project sponsor. So the current bid window, I think, will be used to select projects that will benefit from the next tranche of project preparation funding. As you know, National Treasury makes available funding to the tune of 600 million over the MTEF, so over a 3-year process. This year, like Minister has said, the President announced the top 12 projects that are receiving project preparation support from ISA this year. So the ones that are coming in now in terms of this particular application process will receive funding or project preparation support in the next financial year. So the selected projects will be announced at the next Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium of South Africa, the SITSA. And once these projects have undergone various stages of appraisal and approval, they will receive this comprehensive project preparation assistance. Just as I am about to conclude, obviously because we are looking to support really major catalytic infrastructure projects and programs in the country, our focus will be on projects that will significantly contribute to GDP growth, firstly, job creation, support South Africa's global competitiveness, localization, and most importantly, must ensure that they transfer risk, fiscal risk, away from the public sector to the private sector. We thought that we'll just need also to give just a quick update on the top 12 projects that were announced this year and the type of support that they are receiving from ESA. Firstly, out of the 12 projects, 4 of those, they sit in the Transnet space. So both Transnet Freight Rail as well as Transnet National Ports Authority. In terms of TFR, Transnet Freight Rail, we are supporting them on Project Ukuvuselela. This is a project, high capacity rail project to link Tshwane, city of Tshwane, with Port of Ngqura in Gqeberha. We're also supporting them on project preparation in terms of the Durban Container Terminal Pier 1, as well as the 2 LNG import terminals, both in Richards Bay as well as the Port of Ngqura again. Another project we deal with is the support to Eskom in terms of their Dubatse pump storage scheme. Other projects are in the water space. We are supporting Amatola water bulk supply scheme in the Eastern Cape with 5 of their projects there. It's a program, as well as the city of Tshwane in the preparation work to expand the waste treatment plant in Rooiwal to be able to unlock additional investments in that area. And then finally, some of the projects that we are also providing support on is the Ingomazi Special Economic Zone in Mpumalanga. That's a very important economic corridor that links Mozambique as well as in South Africa through Mpumalanga, as well as Namakwa SEZ in the Northern Cape, an important industrial zone, especially when you think about the green hydrogen program of the country. And then lastly, of course, it's the social infrastructure programs. There we're looking at supporting both KwaZulu-Natal as well as Limpopo provinces on conducting conditional assessments of 850 schools to be able to quantify the investment required to upgrade these schools, to build new schools if it's required, repair some of these schools, and ensure that they are meeting the norms and standards of the Department of Basic Education. And then, of course, lastly, on the social infrastructure program side, is to support the Department of Health as it readies itself for the implementation of the NHI. So we're looking at, they've tasked us to look at 66 tertiary hospitals in the country to conduct conditional assessments on those and be able to package a business case to look for funding and financing for those hospitals in terms of their upgrades and also the building of new hospitals where it is going to be required. I'll leave it there for now, Minister. Hopefully that we were able to indicate what the process will be. As Minister has indicated, it's live now on our website. The process is to apply online. It closes on midnight on the 6th of December, and the announcements around which of these projects will then form part of the next top 12 infrastructure projects will be announced by the Minister at the CCSA. Thank you very much.
So no late entries accepted. It's midnight. We are very strict about the stuff now. Thank you very much, Mwetse. So there it is. You can see why I'm so excited about what I really consider to be a big development in infrastructure in South Africa. This is a first of its kind, and I'm sure that it's going to be really oversubscribed in my view. The problem is they're going to be knocking on our doors for bid window too. So we'll deal with that problem when we get to it. So over to you, Lelo, thanks.
Thank you very much. Minister, thank you, Mametsi. So let's take questions from members of the media. You know the drill, so just put your hand up. When I point to you, just tell me your name, the name of your media house, and then you can ask your question. We'll take a round, we'll take 2 rounds if there's more questions, but we'll allow Mametsi and the Minister and Alvino to write down the questions and answer a few questions at the same time. There's a roving mic there by Shudu. Questions? All right, we'll start here in the front. Number 1, number 2, number 3.
Good morning, my name is Katla Balawadi from the SABC. I'm here. I just wanted to check in with you around issues or concerns of the construction mafia. We know very well that when you stepped into office, that was one of the stumbling blocks that would hamper your progress and your tenure here. Where are we where that is concerned? And are we looking at that being somewhat of a challenge here as we see you inviting these bid windows to come through? Again, we were with you, Minister, at the Telkom Towers, and you were walking and inspecting the Telkom Towers, announcing that there would now be a forensic investigation looking into that building and what happened where that project is concerned. Can you please just give us an update in terms of where are we right now, issues of accountability? Are we seeing people really getting held accountable for what happened where that project is concerned? Thank you.
Hi, Lisa Stain from News 24. How many projects are likely to come through this bid window? Can you give us any sense of the quantum? Just for clarity, you talk about private sector players with public sector support can qualify, but not private sector players themselves. Can you just explain what public sector support means in that context? And then, you know, are these projects attractive to private sector funders? What makes them so? Thank you.
Good morning, Darren Parker, Engineering News. I had a similar question to her, but it's just regarding the statements that we've received as well. On the one, it clearly states that private sector projects may not apply, and on the other statement it says that they do. So if we can just clarify exactly what's going on there and where does the private sector fit into all of this, if at all. Thank you.
Should we deal with those in the meantime?
Any question?
Okay, I think those are the only 3 questions. I'll start with you, Minister, and then I'll hand over to Mametsi.
Okay, thank you very much. So, concerns around the construction mafia. On the 19th of November, we will be hosting a national summit in eThekwini, which is kind of ground zero for this behavior. And we will be bringing together a number of ministers, including myself, the Minister of Police, MECs, National Police Commissioner, industry players, and we are going to contemplate the very difficult problem that this exists for infrastructure projects. And I say it's a difficult problem because what it does is it creates uncertainty in government's ability to develop or to deliver projects on time and on budget. And if you are going to have stoppages and violence, it is a concern for investors. And both when I went to China and to the UK, it was brought up repeatedly. So we are going to, and we want to work closer with the police department, and I've got a meeting with the Minister of Police coming up soon, in how do we work to secure government-led infrastructure projects. And it's not impossible, it's been done before. You'll recall that when Eskom was under attack and sabotage, the SANDF was deployed to protect those sites, and that stopped. So we've got to do better work in crime intelligence, and we've got to do better work at stopping these stoppages. My hope is that when we come out of that, we will have a national and provincial defined plan of how we categorize the construction mafia. Some people still want to call them business forums and sort of pretend that they are benevolent in their operation. There is capacity in some provinces to deal with them. There is less capacity in others. So we need to have a common approach. The other issue that we must deal with concretely, and there is now, I'm very glad about it, a common position that the 30% so-called set-aside is the gateway for the construction mafia. And what government has done unknowingly is that they have monetized and incentivized the acts of criminality, violence, and murder that we have seen on these sites. To the detriment, actually, of small and medium-sized black businesses that government wanted to bring into the construction space on government-led projects. They have said to me that they are actually the biggest losers because these guys arrived with AK-47s, they arrived to harass people, to inflict violence, and so on. So the question we also need to contemplate at the summit is how do we bring back and into construction projects small and medium-sized businesses that legitimately deserve to participate in government's infrastructure plan instead of actually just putting a monetized number that the mafia look for. On Telkom Towers, we are proceeding with that independent investigation. In fact, the Auditor General, in a meeting that we had with them, is very pleased that we have taken that action. I must admit that I would like to have had it completed by now, but due to, and I'm still working these things out, government procurement processes take a little bit longer than they do in my private office, have slightly delayed it, but I do hope that we will have the provider appointed shortly, and then they will still have 60 days to present the report on who was responsible, how it came to be, why it is in the position that it is, but most importantly, what are we going to do with that building? Because there are too many vested interests that want to keep that project going after R1 billion that has been spent, and 7 or 8 of the 9 towers remain unoperating and vandalized. So that will come out soon, hopefully, and as soon as that report is finished and it has been scrutinized, it will be made available to the public. Let me just say on attracting private sector involvement. Without the private sector, whether it is in construction or financing, our infrastructure plans are not going to be fulfilled in their entirety. That is the reality. There are, however, some constraints that remain around PPPs that are being worked out by National Treasury. But where there are tariff-related infrastructure projects, particularly in water, electricity, road, and transmission, that is where the private sector is desperate to get involved. What we have said as Infrastructure South Africa is that we also appreciate that there's a contribution that government must make to those projects to de-risk them, particularly in water. So what is government's indigent component to that project so that we take out the risk of non-payment and the project is bankable and feasible around the paying tariff structure of those projects. And there is enormous international appetite for that. So the private sector is government's friend. I think the Deputy President put it best when he said that, you know, the private sector or privatization is not a swear word. I agree with him. We need the private sector to achieve what we want to do. And government only has so much money on its balance sheet that it can make available to us, which is why today's project and announcement is so important, that we can use funding to prepare projects so that they are bankable, that they are accessible, and that we work to create those synergies between the private and public sector on infrastructure projects. So Mametse, let me hand over to you on the rest of those questions.
Thank you, Minister. Let me start with Lisa's question. So this year, or in the last financial year, in March this year, there was an announcement of top 12 infrastructure projects that will receive project preparation support from ESA. So the total value of those projects is estimated at 180 billion. So if we are to prepare them, package them, get funding from National Treasury and financing from the private sector, and those projects are constructed on the ground, the assets are constructed on the ground, that's the value that we're looking at. So this year, with this window, with this current bid window now, or the first bid window that we are announcing today, we are hoping that we will have announced similar numbers in terms of the number of projects. Maybe the value might be a little bit higher, we don't know. It will depend on our own modeling exercise that we'll undertake when these projects are submitted. As mentioned, the higher the value of these projects in terms of GDP impact, job creation, etc., they will have a higher weighting, and we'll have to then look at a number of other dimensions before that announcement is made. So the value of the project, the complexity of that project, the number of years it will take to deliver that project, all of them will be in the mix when with the assessment that we'll make internally within ESA. So that's what we're looking at. Essentially, we are replenishing the current pipeline. Some of the criticism that we do get is that, but Infrastructure South Africa, we've been talking about the same projects the last 3 years. So what's new? What's coming up? And so we are now being proactive in actually putting together and developing the next wave of these bankable infrastructure projects going forward. On the private sector participation with public sector support, Minister has clarified that. Let me amplify a little bit. So let's take a project like Lufering, which is a mixed-use housing development in Johannesburg, or the one First Land Mix development in City of Tshwane. So although the developer is a private sector company, they do require municipal bulk infrastructure. And at the point where these processes were being undertaken with the City of Joburg in terms of Lufering or First Land Mix development in Tshwane, the municipality simply does not have the money to support the bulk infrastructure that is required. So the applicant for that type of work to be prepared and packaged will be the City of Tshwane or the City of Johannesburg. The reason is that when National Treasury provided this funding allocation to Infrastructure South Africa, it came with conditions. And because it is public funds governed under PFMA, the funding cannot be deployed directly to a private sector company. So I hope that explains it. So the people that will be, or the project sponsors, the project owners that will be applying for project preparation funding must be a public sector institution, whether it's a municipality, is a province, is a national government department, is an SOE, is a public, a water authority, for example. Those will be the applications that we'll be receiving from our side. What makes these projects bankable and attractive to the public sector is exactly what I mentioned in my introductory remarks, is that the categories of the projects that we're onboarding by themselves, inherently, they are attractive to the private sector, whether they are PPPs, whether they are blended finance candidate projects, they are commercially viable projects. All of these projects do not require, they do require private sector financing inherently. That's the nature, that's how they are, and so we have pivoted our own project pipeline to be able to make sure that any project that is onboarded from an ISA perspective does and will receive or has got the potential to crowd in private sector financing and private sector support. Thank you.
Let me take a final round of questions, if there is any. Okay, so we have two documents, you're correct. The first one is the official statement released by the ministry. The second one, which has the Infrastructure South Africa logo, is a media summary of the technical guidelines that you'll find on the website. And at the back, it has the summary of the support provided to the top 12 projects that the Minister and Committee have spoken to. Maybe let me just ask from the Program Manager, Alvino, is there anything else you wish to clarify from the technical guidelines on the website to the members of the media?
I think it's important to note, and I think the acting head has just informed everyone in terms of the type of projects that we're looking for. But we will be doing a proper due diligence on the submissions that we do receive as well. That means that once all submissions has come through the website, our governance process will kick in, where we will take these projects through our validation committee, it will go through our investment review committee as well. And that means once we receive all the information, we'll double check the information, we'll actually do a due diligence going onto site to see, is the information that we received the quality information that we are looking for to put this project preparation documents together. Whether that is feasibility studies that we are doing, or we are doing a pre-feasibility study, or actually just putting a transaction advisory document together for other funders to come on board, we will need to do that detailed due diligence. National Treasury usually get around 85 to 100 projects that come in for assessment just for the budget facility for infrastructure. We're looking probably at the same amount of projects, but at the end of the day, like that it said, only about 10 or 12 of those projects, and it depends on the due diligence that we are doing, is what we will be able to see and fund. And it all depends on the quality of submission that we eventually received as well. Thank you.
Let me just say, in closing, if I can, that this is the second day of our strategic planning session that the department is having next door. And one thing I've said to the department is that I really want us to feel free to find new and innovative ways to execute our mandate. And one of those things that we've been contemplating is the severe crisis that exists in municipal infrastructure and the fragmented approach that we take to building and financing of infrastructure. So municipalities get a lot of money through the municipal infrastructure grant, and I think that this is a perfect opportunity for them to be able to take up this facility and this bid window that we've made available, look at what projects they're looking at over the next while, particularly on water and transmission, and work with us so that we can package, prepare, and deliver credible projects that can also leverage private sector financing. That's actually what this real opportunity exists as well. And if we get that right, then there is scope for us to broaden that, so that we actually see, I think, something for the 950 billion rand that's spent on infrastructure every 3 years in the MTF. That's what people want to see. Our country is desperate. They say there's all this money spent, but we can't actually see it. We still have sewage running down our streets. Lights don't come on, or they trip. And we open our taps, there's no water. This is what I think that this real opportunity exists. So my message really is to all governments, all entities, take advantage of this opportunity. And I think that it can be incredibly successful, and you can see the coordination and the cooperation that can take place between various spheres of government. So let me so that can close, and I'll let you close off. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister. That is the closing summary. Thank you very much, members of the panel. Thank you to members of the media. Just one announcement. If you want to have more in-depth interviews with the minister spokesperson is at the back. James, everyone knows James. You can reach out to him for interviews with the minister. And the two documents that I referred to, if you would like copies, Tsakani, put your hand up. You can get copies from Tsakani. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.